All right, Adam VillaSenor. I'm 30 years old. I did not go to film school. I'm self-taught, and but I cut my teeth doing music video and commercial work, and that's about it. I'm a big fan of movies and love movies, and just want to keep making movies.
I'm 31 years old, self-taught as well, and similar to Adam, I love movies and just want to keep making movies. And grew up on all different types of film, and we made music videos and short films, and we made this movie.
What's up? This is Jacob. I'm 36 years old. Old. I'm the old man of the crew. We got a very young crew, so they make me grow this beard, just to prove how old I am. And as far as a bio goes, everything I've really done in entertainment over the years has been focused on, production, music videos. I started off, as far as my film career goes, I started off in music and transitioned into career, actually with the help of these two gentlemen that are joining us, Adam and Reza, two of my best friends. We met up on a music video set and transitioned into film after working on a few projects, music video projects together. So, I also help run a nonprofit called Peace for Kids. It's out of South LA, and we work with the foster care community, youth that have experienced foster care, and so that's really a community as family there. And I've been able to kind of overlap my worlds with Adam and Reza. They've done a lot of projects with us, filming, editing, helping get their narratives out. And yeah, so that's kind of me in a nutshell. I've got these two sides of me, and I love bringing them all together and collaborating. So,
congratulations on In Full Bloom, which is one of the most interesting boxing stroke sports films I've ever seen. My first question is, how do you compare the film that we see to the one that was in your heads?
Interesting question.
In other words, how closely realized is the vision?
I feel like so this is, I don't think we've talked about this aspect, but, when you're, writing a film, you have so many different preconceived ideas of things you want to do and things you don't want to do. You start putting it into production and you start really realizing how difficult and challenging, some words are on a page, or how maybe poetic. It's like, can we capture that? Can we translate that? And everything's about translation. So I do feel, very proud of the film, and I do feel that we actually did translate a lot of the aspects that we wanted to the film. Of course, there's things that, you got to trim out of the script that, may just be out of our kind of, budget range, or out of our, just kind of the parameters that we're working with. But I feel more or less, I think we really made what we wanted to make, and I feel great about it.
Reza?
Yeah, I had very similar experience for me personally. I feel like there are so many aspects of the film that were very, very close to how we imagined it to be, and then other aspects that changed for the better as we were shooting, or as we were preparing for the day. We're like, should we change gears because of what happened yesterday, what we discovered on set yesterday, or what a certain actor brought to a scene the day before or 2 days before? We're like, should we take it in a different direction? But there are sections of the film that were very close to how we wanted it to be from the beginning.
And Jacob, can you, just bouncing off what the guys have said, can you illustrate one example where the film changed for the better while you were making it?
Sure. Yeah, I think the original script was quite a bit more linear. It happened in kind of in sections. where, you know, you really stayed with one character for a longer period of time. And personally, when I read the original script, I wasn't 100% sure how it was going to how it was going to keep the attention, because every scene is so beautiful and every scene is so unique, but all together it kind of got a little it was like a lot. It was a lot for your brain to digest. And so, you know, the way that the film wound up coming together, and what made most sense is to really dive back and forth into both characters, so you feel and you can compare and you can see kind of the similarities and the differences between the two. And I feel like that change really allowed both characters to have this even playing field in the film, where you can root for either one, and you don't know who you're rooting for at first, and you go along on both journeys, as opposed to being with one for a long time with the other. So that was something I think wound up really being in a brilliant.
It certainly works very, very well, just as a viewing experience, shifting from perspective to perspective. Now, one of the creative issues I wanted to bring up with you guys was this blending of boxing and sport movie traditions and conventions with the look of the film, which almost has a noir look. Just firstly, can I ask you about what influences you were bringing to the film? Because it ticks all the boxes that you want from a boxing movie. You've got the personal struggle, you've got the rivalry, you've got the metaphor for life, which is one of the most resonant themes that we have in boxing films. But we've also got this post-war political thing going on. Can you just tell me a little bit about those aspects, the use of movie conventions and this theme that you guys have introduced about the post-war era?
Yeah, you know, for us, it was really important that we pay homage to the films that came before us, but also strive to do something unique and different. And so we spent a few months essentially watching every boxing movie that was ever created, to get a sense for what was done and what was done right and what was done wrong. And we took that all in, and we decided to do our best to kind of play with certain conventions and certain tropes and try to bring something unique to it. And I think one of the aspects that was most important to us was the cinematography, and making sure that it was unique, that it was told and shown kind of like a crime noir, but then it's a boxing film. So we watch a lot of like 1950s boxing films, and paid attention to the lighting and the use of the frame and how they kind of showed each character and the psychology of each character. And that became a focal point for how we wanted to tell the story through this crime noir 1950s type of cinematography with this this boxing world. So that was a huge thing that we tried to bring.
Well, I have to ask you.
And I
Sorry,
think,
go on.
oh, sorry.
Go on, Adam.
No, sorry. No, I was just going to say, to add to that, just, you know, you mentioned the political aspect and like the tensions behind it. And I think a lot of times, especially back then, you know, there's, you know, countries would really get behind some of these fighters. You know, you have a fight like Kobayashi versus Duran in 1971, where it was really about the country's pride. And we felt like adding that element, you know, especially after, you know, post World War II, you know, after the incidents that happened in Japan, you know, we felt like it was an interesting thing to explore, but then also keep an aspect where these fighters, they weren't adversarial towards each other, but there was like a mutual respect, and where you kind of appreciate, you know, you get an omniscient view to appreciate both cultures and what both men are going through on, you know, like a mental, spiritual, you know, psychological, and you know, and the countries, the political tension behind it as well. So we want to kind of add these different layers to the whole fighter's experience, and not just experience one facet of it.
Guys, just in parentheses, these films that you watched in preparation for this film, I'm sure you watched all the Rocky films, which is mandatory. Did you guys also watch the Robert Wise film, The Setup?
Yes, we actually bought that film because it was so amazing. We wanted to continue watching like over and over again. But yeah.
Yeah, we watched The Setup. We watched Champion. We watched, I mean, a lot of the old 50s, 60s, 70s movies. We watched some Japanese boxing movies from the 70s. You know, a big one, we watched this anime called Hajime no Ippo. And it's an anime about a young boxer's journey. And kind of a lot of the stylized, you know, influence we got was from this anime, of how we wanted to kind of fight the scenes and stage the scenes and do the choreography and capture kind of this unique aspect to, you know, to boxing, was a little more internal. So yeah.
Okay. Now, I'd like to know, regarding the cinematography, how long did you guys spend choreographing the and storyboarding the cinematography? Because the film has a wonderful look. It's so sharp. It looks like you shot it on film. It's just a remarkable looking film that complements the narrative so well. Just how much trouble did you guys go to getting that look?
Oh, well,
Oof.
thank you so much. Thank you for those kind words. Yeah, we spent a long time. We spent a long time trying to really. I remember in my apartment, Adam and I were living together at the time, and every night we do like lighting tests. So we bought the actual like overhead lights that are in the film. We bought those like months in advance, and we do lighting tests every night in my apartment. We turn all the lights off and just have those on, and do different color tests and see what's the best to make the image pop the most. So I'd say we spent a long time trying to production design everything and test everything out and make sure that it could perform the best when we actually got on set.
Yeah, and if you look at the film, like kind of how it's shot, you know, we didn't do a lot of coverage actually. Everything was pretty methodical in terms of like capturing, you know, one shot and then moving on to the next shot. And very, very rarely did we do back and forth style coverage. You know, we wanted to kind of lead people through a psychological experience, and each shot kind of be kind of like a different frame every time you saw a new frame. And that was kind of just the lack of coverage, which is a little risky, but you know, it felt like an interesting way to kind of tackle this film.
Well, one major point of distinction with this film is the coverage of the final fight. You have that extraordinary single shot with the first round, and then you go into close-ups and very sharp editing with the subsequent rounds. It's an extraordinary piece of cinema that you guys have put together there. Just tell us a bit about how you mounted the coverage of the final fight.
All right. Well, I'll speak a little bit on kind of the preparation, and I'll let the fellas talk a little bit about the cinematography and the decision to shoot every round differently, because it was something that they set out to do from the beginning. But the choreography, or the coordination, I should say, Daryl Foster, the fight coordinator, hates the word fight choreography, so I'm not going to say that. The fight coordination, Daryl Foster, who was Sugar Ray Leonard's longtime trainer for 20 plus years, and who you know did Ali, you know, did the fight coordination in Ali, and a bunch of other great films. He came on board and he really helped to achieve those aspects. You know, he was actually one of the very first people, if not the first person outside of the three of us, to sign on to the project, because we knew how important getting the fight right was going to be. And they had a vision on how to shoot it, but we needed somebody to train the two fighters on how to actually do the movements and to ensure nobody got hurt, but to ensure that it looked as real as possible. So Daryl Foster was an amazing addition, and he worked with the guys leading up to the filming for a few weeks. You know, we didn't have the budget to hire him. Normally he does it in multiple months, and we had to really push our guys and our whole team to really get everything down in a few weeks, and they were able to get it and pick it up, and they had to work on their own and on their own time, and you know, it all came together. And when it came to the actual, you know, shooting, I'm gonna turn it over to the boys.
Yeah, so it was really, really important for us to again try to do something different that came before us, but while paying homage to the great films that were. So early on, we made a decision that every single round that we shoot, we're going to do it in like a different style, and we're not going to repeat shots. We're not going to repeat methods. Everything will be different. So, you know, for the first round, it's a real continuous one take, and it's just the boxers sizing each other up and learning about each other, because from what Daryl told us and what we learned from speaking with real fighters is nobody comes out the first round just swinging for the fences. You know, the first round is all about sizing each other up and just learning about the other opponent. So a lot of times in boxing films, the first round they come out swinging and going crazy, and we're like, hey, let's calm it down. Let's make it more psychological. Let's show these guys learning about each other and sizing each other up. And then when you get to the second and third and fourth rounds, it progressively gets more brutal and more chaotic, and that's echoed in the cinematography as well. And another thing that we want to do is we wanted to make it more different and have the referee and the audience not be in the ring. So a lot of times people ask like, oh, was this a budget thing or was it a creative thing? What was the intention behind it? And from day one, when we were writing the script, we just wanted the two fighters in the ring, because when talking with different fighters, they always say when we're in there, everyone kind of like just goes away. The referee goes away, the audience goes away, and you get this tunnel vision where you're only seeing the opponent. And we thought how cool that'd be to actually show that on film, because we've never seen that before. So that was another conscious decision that we did from the very inception of the idea.
Adam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another aspect to that was, you know, the lighting in each round. And, you know, we actually had, you know, kind of everything rigged up like how, you know, a boxing ring light would be rigged up, but we had like everything, you know, we had a lot of control because every single light was 100% dimmable and movable. So we were actually really, if you pay attention to each round, we were able to kind of create little different lighting schemes within, you know, each round as well. So not just the cinematography was different, but the lighting was a bit different as well. So it was interesting, just kind of each round, you know, like both these guys already said, you know, just creating just its own look and, you know, its own psychological framing and kind of how these guys are attacking each other and you know, how, you know, I don't want to give away too much, but, you know, and these guys really just are bringing their all to it. And it was just important just to cover it from something we haven't seen before in other boxing films.
Real quick, I just want to go back to something that was said earlier, because it really relates to this particular scene. And that is that, you know, there were some folks on the team, I won't name names, but who wanted us to get coverage of a different ending, right? And we agreed to get that coverage. We never did. We never shot it. I mean, that's how that's how confident these guys are, and that's, you know, and they just knew what their vision was, and they, you know, of course, you know, we're gonna maybe I shouldn't have said that. Future folks, we will listen. We won't just yes you, I promise.
While in Australia, filmmakers, especially independent filmmakers, have access to government money, my understanding is that in America, you guys don't have that avenue of finance, that you can't really go to a government funding body. There is no government funding body. Can you just speak to that and then tell me how much this film cost and how you raised the finance?
Well, you know, we got to leave some stuff up to the imagination. You know, we can't give away all of our secrets. But you know, yes, the government is not financing things. You know, in some states you get a bigger tax refund. You get tax. There's tax incentives, right, which help you in certain ways, and there's so there's certain things that the government tries to do, but yeah, it's definitely not. Money's not handed out, and in these types of films for sure not. So, I mean, one of the beautiful things about this film was that the three guys you're talking to right now, we put up our own money to make the film and to start making the film. We had tried to get financing for a while, and we're having challenges. And there was a big storm coming, and we said, if we're going to do this, we got to do it now. And with the support of our families and one another, we pulled together and brought, Adam brought his cousin. I brought my cousin to cook food for us, and we brought a couple of actors, and we went and started filming. And so, we wound up getting financing based off of what we had already shot to complete the rest of the movie. But I think as a filmmaker, if you want your vision, if you want to actualize your vision, sometimes you got to do it yourself. And we had some people who were willing to finance the project if we changed this aspect or if we changed that aspect. And Adam and Reza were unwilling to waver, and I supported them fully in those decisions. But ultimately, we had to go out and prove on our own that we could make the film and make something different and unique, and ultimately we got the financing for the rest of the film.
Okay, Adam and Riza, can you just address that issue that Jacob just raised about the offering of finance in return for changes to the film? You don't need to name who was offering you this deal, but I'm always interested in the issue of, I don't want to say compromise because it's not a fair term, but some artists are willing to make adjustments to their work in order to have it realized. What was the nature of the changes that these finances were after?
I think generally, when you make a movie, especially if it has boxing, people want more action. They want more of a traditional hero story. They want one protagonist and one villain. They want kind of things that we've seen before, because I think people, are scared. They just want to do what they've already seen. And so when you're approaching a movie and you're saying, hey, there's two protagonists and one's American and one's Japanese, and half the movie is going to be in native Japanese, and and people were like, well, why don't you change it to Chinese so if it's the Chinese market, and or change these scenes. And so there's a lot of conversations that come up, and I think at the end of the day, the movie is about these guys are not in it for compromise. They're not compromising. They're going out, they're giving it their all. They have integrity while doing it. They have respect, they have honor, for themselves to go out there and bring the fight. And so we couldn't compromise this story knowing that this movie's about that. And we had to stay in integrity with what the story was. And we felt that had to be reflected behind the scenes as well. So yeah, was it difficult? Was it hard? It took, a couple of years to, get money together, do pitches, meetings, and it's very difficult. And there's a lot of people that tell you no. And, it took, Jake and Reza and some of our other, friends and family to kind of band behind what our vision was. And we just kind of went for it. And we went out to the snow and we shot the first third of the movie ourselves. And, and it's a very humbling experience to do that, because you're not in a comfortable situation where you have all this money and all this time, to do that. So you're just kind of going out and just creating something and doing.
Can you just clarify for me? So you guys pooled together as much finance as you could from your own pockets and from your own families, and then went out and shot a portion of the film that you then used to approach other possible funding sources. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what are these funding sources? These are private investors? These are people you know? How does that work?
Generally, it's working in like music videos and commercials. It's kind of allowed us to have a few kind of like connections. So a friend, who's a producer will be like, oh, I know, like a sales company or like a producer or an investor, and it's a little bit, it's a mix of everything. It's a mix of sales companies. It's a mix of independent financiers, and or production companies as well. So there was a lot of no's before a yes, and it's you really have to kind of make like your order of operations and go through them, and I think having something like a trailer, and because we had already shot a third of the film and we had some scenes cut together, we had like a trailer, then people could say, oh, okay, this is what you're doing, and you can say, hey, we're making this film regardless, like, do you want to do this? And I think if you're putting your money where your mouth is, a lot of times people will see that and be like, wow, well, these guys are doing it with or without me, so I should maybe jump on the train before it leaves the station, type thing.
The film was completed last year, 2019. How is it traveling?
Yeah, so we had a world premiere at Oldenburg last year. So it was an awesome experience. Torsten put on an amazing event, and we all got to go out there. We actually traveled real deep. I think there was 14 of us that flew out to Germany for our world premiere. So, we've kind of formed this family bond within the film, this in full bloom bond. And we won both of the two biggest awards there. The best film, which is their jury award, and then also the audience award, best film. So that was an amazing experience to be across the world and to have other folks really understand the vision and appreciate it. And it was really probably the first time. I mean, it was our world premiere, but it's the first time I'll never forget kind of sitting on the lawn and listening to some folks in the countryside telling us about our film and getting emotional about it, and reflecting back to their lives and how it impacted them watching the film and seeing these fighters' journeys. And it's a really impactful moment because sometimes you forget, when you're making a film, you forget kind of what that end result is, right? People actually watching it and having an experience of their own. And then earlier this year, in March, we had our domestic premiere at Mammoth Film Festival, and we took home the grand jury award there as well. And I think we were shocked by the first one and the second one as well. You go in just to enjoy the process and to show your film, but again, having people within the film industry, and when you win a jury award, it's there's a jury of some great filmmakers, and that we got some amazing feedback from them, and so it's been a blessing. We've got some distribution deals on the table, some offers on the table, and we've been weighing them, and we're in the process now of kind of pulling the trigger, and we're gonna have an answer and hopefully be making an announcement in the next couple of weeks.
At the moment, we're hearing a lot about how the coronavirus has affected the big studios and big title films, having to delay them or release them straight to digital or try to do simultaneous releases. How does the coronavirus affect a independent film like yours?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, before coronavirus, we had some plans for how we wanted to distribute the film, and the offers that we were getting, they came with theatrical, which obviously as a young filmmaker, it's something that you hope to see your film go to theater, and you envision packed theater houses watching your film on the big screen with the sound, and obviously that's changed now because of coronavirus. So What it's meant is that we have to get more creative now with how to get it out there and how to show people, and even being creative with how can we still show it on a big screen. Whether it's drive-in or there's other new and interesting ideas that people are doing, that a lot of them are really cool. We were actually just talking about it a few minutes ago. So I think it just means that you have to get more creative with how to get large audiences to see them, while still keeping streaming in mind, which is really important. It's how most people consume content. But for creative guys, we're like, hey, we still want to see the movie on a big screen. So how can we make that happen? Which I think we've come up with some creative ideas to still make that a reality.
You worked on this film for how long? 3 or 4 years?
I think 6.
I think from when the script was written, it's probably about 4 years now, 4.5 years, something like that.
I always have great admiration for anyone who can pull off a completed feature film. So congratulations on that. Guys, I just want to broaden it out a little bit
Thank
now,
you.
if that's okay. Can you just briefly tell me, Adam and Riza, how you divided the directing duties, and Jacob, how you operate with 2 directors as a creative producer?
Yeah, Adam.
So Reza and I, the great thing about Reza and I is that, Reza's one of my best friends since we're like 12 years old. And, so we love all the same movies. We have a lot of the same tastes in art. And so there was just a shorthand and kind of like a easy reference point to communicate like ideas or thoughts and reference points and different cinema and talking through things. And so for us, because we had both, co-directed so many like music videos and commercials, it was easy for us to get on set and like trade the camera off, or like, trade giving, direction to the actors off, or have group huddles where we were, talking to the actors and walking through things and rehearsals. And so, it was a very, we kind of both did everything. And that's why we both took on so many different roles, cinematography, production design, lighting. We're just able to trade off. And we're both kind of these generalist guys. We have an in-depth knowledge of the production process from start to finish. So, it's easy for us to kind of get in the weeds together and kind of take over and shift things as we needed to, and kind of equally. And, it was a great experience to be able to do that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything Adam just said is exactly on point. I remember the few years that we did live together, we'd watch just a ton of movies. Like every day was, what are we watching today? So, and before that, we would watch movies all day long. So when we were on set,
I miss those times.
I miss those times too. When we were on set, it was like, if we wanted to go in, if like Adam wanted to go in a different direction, he's like, hey, I'm thinking about this. Like, okay, do you remember this movie and this scene? And I'd know exactly which scene and which movie he was talking about. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's go in that direction. So it's like, because we, like you said, we had such a similar palette, it was really quick to be like, well, I want to do like this one shot like that one movie. And it's like, yeah, I know. Okay, cool. Let's do that. So I think in that way, it was really, really easy, because there was, the shared knowledge that we both had an interest in the exact same, things.
And Jacob, how did you operate with these 2 guys?
Yeah. Well, it's I think what they just shared is a lot of it, right? When it actually oftentimes was easier for me because they corroborated with the other one what they were talking about, because I had no fucking clue what they were talking about. Most of the time the movies are talking about, like, they've taken me to see some movies, like I barely will see movies with them anymore, because it's always some crazy, ridiculous foreign film that I gotta read subtitles. Meanwhile, that wound up being the movie we made, so I shouldn't be talking shit. But but the point is, like, when one of them would say something and the other one would get it and understand, and they had worked on so many things and we had worked on so many things together, so I had seen that process. I'd seen them have a vision or have an idea, and the other one, agree to it, and then them go execute it, and it turned out great. So I had confidence in the process. I think, sometimes there was challenges. You got two people and they're in kind of a one role, and I'm in a different role, and my role is to manage them and the spending and all these things. So sometimes, I found it challenging because I knew they were, or at least I thought they were talking about it, right? So they had each other. So like sometimes I'd feel like I would say something and then I knew behind my back they were like, go on this one or not, So it worked for us and it worked, against us sometimes. But in the end, it's all about communication, and it's all about trust, and it's all about trusting the process. And I think the three of us have really had a long time to build on that, in a friendship and in a working relationship where we never didn't trust each other, and we always we never did not trust each other, I should say. That's an ode to the film. And so I think it worked out beautifully.
What you just said, Jacob, speaks to the importance of everybody signing off on the same script, on the same idea, on the same approach, on the same vision, and making sure that everyone is in the loop about what's going on.
Absolutely. I mean, while that is all 100% true, I think that one of the main reasons that myself and the rest of the crew was able to trust in Adam and Reza is because they were always open to ideas, right? So it was a vision that they had, but it wasn't a singular vision. It was a collective vision, and they always wanted to bring different things from different artists, right? They considered everybody an artist, not just the actors, but the crew as well. Everybody had a job, and we needed everybody to bring their talents and their ideas, because that's what makes them unique, and that's why we brought them on. And so I think by honoring everybody's contribution, then they begin to trust in you and in your vision, because they're also bringing something and they feel vested in the process.
If I'm not getting too personal, Adam, can I just ask you about an accident you had? I read that you had a serious injury, and just wanted to know, if it's not prying too much, what happened and how it's affected you. Are you okay now?
Yeah, no, I had an injury. This is in 2012, and I sustained a pretty traumatic brain injury. I was just kind of horsing around, climbing up on something, just walking back from the mall after shopping, and I pulled myself up on a gas pipe. Those pipes that kind of run along the ceiling, and I slipped off it and landed right on my head. And I had amnesia for about a year. And I couldn't really remember anything. And, it took about a year to kind of get back to, a working state. But, it was actually one of the best things that kind of happened to me, because, I was going through a lot of things in my life at the time, and I needed kind of like clarity. So I guess you could say that that injury knocked some sense into me, so to speak.
I'm always interested in talking to young filmmakers, and you guys are in your 30s. As young filmmakers, how do you look at film? Do you kind of concentrate on your generation of movies, or do you love to dive into the back catalogue to see what came before and to trace the cinematic history of film?
Yeah, I mean, my dad brought home all kinds of crazy movies. He was bringing home like The Seventh Seal, like from Ingmar Bergman. He was bringing home, like Terrence Malick movies. He was bringing home like anime. He was bringing home just like all kinds of foreign cinema and just all different kinds of movies. So, I know Reza is a big fan of older movies as well. Like Last Year at Marienbad, it's a movie from the 60s. It's like on my top 10. It's a Alain Resnais film. Akira Kurosawa movies. My dad was buying me box sets, from the Criterion Collection that was Kurosawa, and so I love all films from any decade, and I'm always watching different films.
It's interesting. Similarly for me too. My love of movies started with my father, because he was obsessed with westerns. So I remember when I was really young, I probably saw every Western that is in existence, even especially all the Franco Nero ones. My dad was obsessed with Compañeros and stuff like that. So we'd watch those, and he would endlessly just criticize every movie and every scene, and if it was unrealistic or if it could have been better. And that was the spark that started it. And then my uncles, in really different ways, are huge cinephiles as well. So I have one uncle who is into like really strange and obscure cinema, he's a huge fan of Kiarostami, and he's a huge fan of like old Japanese cinema and French New Wave cinema. So he'd introduce me to that. And then I have another uncle who's obsessed with like all types of like interesting foreign cinema, he loves that movie Spring, Summer, Winter, Fall, and Spring Again. He loves that, and he would show me that movie. And so I had like 3 different guys really push like cinema on me in a really major way. And when I could drive myself, I remember when I was really young, I'd be at Blockbuster every single day, just renting everything and anything I could from section to section, just to absorb everything. So that was a huge part of in my own way of film school, was watching every single film I could and dissecting it with my uncles or my dad or by myself. And so, yeah. And we're both a huge fan of Criterion. Like, that's like, that's our jam right there. Is the Criterion.
That's our jam. That's our jam.
And I think this is the exact thing I was talking about earlier, right? Where like I have no idea, they're talking a different language to me. I don't know any of the movies they're talking about, but I had a similar experience, but in a different way, right? Like my father and I would see 2-3 movies in a day. I won't say whether we paid for all 3 or not, but we would go. And but my love for cinema really came as like a child. Like, and I said this as a joke, not as a joke. I said it once before, that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was my favorite movie, right? And you could see the big difference between their favorite movies and mine, or what got me into cinema. And the reality is, when I was young, like it was an escape, right? And it was a new reality that I had never experienced before. And being able to experience a different reality was something that spoke so deeply to me, because if I was going through something, or if I was feeling something, or whatever I was going through, you could always have that escape. You could always go and enter into this new world. And so, I think that's really where it started for me, was in, my childhood, and seeing kind of sci-fi movies and fantasy movies and things that took you out of reality. And as I got older, I started to like movies that were based in reality, and movies like Spinal Tap that really, are tied into a whole world. And because I was in music, that world, I knew the intricacies of it, right? And that was really interesting to me as I got older, the intricacies of those moments and those things that you would only know if you were a part of it. And I think that's what I love so much about this film, is that we brought in these experts, Daryl Foster being there, making sure that the intricacies were right, making sure that the boxing was right, because we want fighters to love the movie. We want people involved in fighting. We want cornermen. So when you tap into kind of the world you're trying to depict, I think what comes out of it is an authentic experience.
You must be so happy that you were born when you were, because the big difference in consumption is that the generation before you, Jacob, to see 2 or 3 films in a day meant, hanging out at a repertory cinema, or just spending all day in cinemas. With video, with DVD, the rate of consumption of cinema that you guys were able to engage in, obviously much higher than the trouble of having to go out to see films. So I'm just making that note that you guys were, I guess, fortunate enough to be able to be part of a generation that was able to consume all this cinema at such a high rate.
That's a great point, Jim. Thanks for aging me again, but that's a great point. I never thought of it that way.
Well, we took it personally, like the movies, going to the movies. It's like, it was just such a personal thing. It was like sacred. Like, You know, it's like I would think I'd be like in the 5th grade or something like that, or 6th grade, and I'd be like, oh, like what would Maximus do in this situation from Gladiator? Like I took it personally, like, you know, so, and that's great. I think it adds great character to you as like an individual, and like Jacob said, it's just like an alternate reality that you get to experience, and it's like it's real shit.
Reza and Adam, can you just tell me just quickly about your friendship? Just you guys, what met at school and have just been close ever since?
Me and Adam met, I want to say like 7th or 8th grade. Um, and I remember one of my earliest memories of Adam
It might
was,
have been 6th grade. It might have been 6th grade
might have been 6th grade.
because
Well, I
you were
remember,
2 grades ahead of me.
oh yeah, I was 2 grades ahead of you. That's right. That's right. But I remember one of my earliest memories of Adam was we had known each other, but we weren't like super close at that young age. And he had come up to me because he started a clothing line. And I remember he came up to me. He's like, "Dude, like I just made this clothing line, and it was called Visceral." And he gave me the shirt. He's like, "Dude, like I want to give you the shirt so you could like wear and like support." And I was like, "No, how much is it? Like I'll buy your shirt for you. Like I'll support you." I remember I bought one of his first shirts from him, and it was like through there that our relationship kind of started. And I saw how much he was into like creative things and with like graphic design and making his own clothing company. And I was really interested in trying to like make movies when I was young, and our love of that kind of stuff started there. And then when we really became close, I remember one time I was walking home with one of my friends, and Adam called him, and he was like, I'm on this bridge and all these kids are about to like fight me. I need some help. Like, come help me. And then my friend turned to me. He's like, "Hey, like, you know, Adam, like, he needs help right now. Like, we have to go help him." I remember like we went on that bridge, and we were really young too. And there was like these like 5 or 6 kids who were about to like jump at him. And then like I didn't know him very well, but I jumped in there and like I had his back, and we fought all these kids off, and we won. And then from there, I remember like we became really close, and like we'd walk home from school together. And at the time, he actually lived really close to me. He lived like, I want to say 2 streets down from my house. So me and him and like the other kids, we'd walk home from school every day together. And what's interesting was we kind of lost touch after high school for like a year or so, or a year or two. And then I saw him one night. I was with one of my friends at the gas station. The gas station, we'd always hang out when we were young. And he walks in with one of his friends, and I'm like, "Oh, Adam, like, what's up, man? Like, how you been? I haven't seen you in so long." And he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And then I'm like, "What are you up to?" And he's like, "Actually, I started making movies with my brother." He's like, "What are you up to?" And I'm like, "I started making movies with my friends." And he's like, "What? No way." And then we started talking about that, and it was weird how we both went off and started making like short films and stuff with our friends and our family. And then we came together and we're like, "Dude, we should make movies together." And that's like kind of where it started, was like randomly seeing each other at the gas station, randomly, you know, after all those years. And that's how we kind of picked up our friendship again, which was really interesting.
Jacob,
Wow.
if that doesn't sound like the basis of a lovely summer teen coming of age movie.
For sure.
Okay.
Well, actually, Adam has talked that he wanted to make a film about like our childhood and like growing up in the area that we did. You've always talked about that.
I
So.
wanted to do that. Yeah.
So that's
I
like a real
will.
thing.
I will eventually.
It sounds great. Adam, just quickly, just earlier you mentioned you'd made some music videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, are there any ones that we would have seen here?
We did. Me and Reza did a one with Justin Bieber for his like Hard Summer concert. It was like him, Skrillex, and Diplo, and a bunch of other people were there. But yeah, we were shooting it, and we kind of had this. We had talked to the manager on the set, and he's like, "What do you guys like? How are you guys gonna shoot this?" And we're like, "Dude, we're gonna do like black and white, like French New Wave style, and like blah 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 blah." You know, he was like, he's like, "Well, Justin's always so well lit," and we're like, "Fuck that! Like, let's just get gritty with Justin." And it was funny is after that video, I feel like there was a turning point with a lot of his content. I felt, you know, it was like always depicting him in a much more naturalistic state. But yeah, that's like a big one we did. That was super cool. I did one for Jewel recently. Trying to think. I mean, some of Jacob's, you know, artists that, you know, he was worked with over the years. We did music videos for.
I'd like to thank you guys so much for the time you've given me. in this interview. I really appreciate it. Again, it's a reflection on the film. I wouldn't waste my time otherwise, or your time. But I just thought,
thank you so much.
I just think
Yeah,
you made a
thank
great
you.
film, and just thank you so much for not only just talking about your film, but the insights that you've offered. So thank you guys so much.
No,
Yeah,
thank
Thank you,
you.
Jim.
Thanks
thank
for
you for your
having
time,
us.
man. We really
Thank you for your
appreciate it.
Yeah,
time.
we appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Jim.